Peoples. It is Tuesday, February 27th, and I am here with your geopolitical news. Al Jazeera reports Biden says agreement reached for ceasefire during Ramadan. U.S. President Joe Biden has said Israel has agreed not to engage in military activities during Ramadan in Gaza. So, obviously, this is a good thing. And one can only hope that it continues after the month of Ramadan. But for right now, I would say that it is a good thing. Now, by no means do I feel that this erases the horror that we've all been witnessing and all been seeing. This is a gesture, and it's a positive gesture, but nonetheless, it's just a gesture. And after the month of Ramadan, things might very well go back to the horrors that we've been seeing in real time. So I'm going to play a little bit of this. Well, video is not that long. President Joe Biden has made a statement as it relates to the month of Ramadan and their position, and also I'm I'm guessing what Israel has agreed to. So I'm going to play this for you guys so you can hear it.
We got at least a principle agreement. There'll be a ceasefire while that takes place. Ramadan's coming up, and there's been an agreement by the Israelis that they would not engage in activities during Ramadan as well, in order to give us time to get all the hostages out. That gives us time to begin to move in directions that a lot.
So now maybe he is under the impression that there will be a hostage exchange or a prisoner swap or whatever may have you. But, you know, if that happens, then one can only gather that if it's not agreed to, then it will still be a military campaign ongoing in Gaza. So I'm not saying that that is exactly what he's saying, but if you're saying that there will be a ceasefire is one thing. And now you're saying hopefully it'll give you guys time to get the hostages out. And so if that's what you believe will happen in that time, that you'll be able to get the hostages out, which I absolutely don't see why that would be even allowed to happen. Because if Hamas, the freedom fighters that are in Gaza right now, if they give or release the hostages, then Israel is just going to conduct its military campaign as it's been conducting. So it's nothing that will stop Israel from conducting this military campaign. At least I don't believe it to be anything that will stop them. As Benjamin Netanyahu has already stated, nothing will stand in their way. And so, as I said before, this is a gesture to make President Joe Biden look good in front of the American people. You see, when I first started this conversation, I've already said that this was a positive thing. And so, this is something that is being used tactically to save Joe Biden's face in an election year as it relates to the American people. So why not push Israel to do something that makes you look good in front of your people? And this is what he's done. He's gotten Israel to come to an agreement to say, you know what? We won't kill anybody. We won't bomb anything. We won't do any of this during the month of Ramadan. But after the month of Ramadan, well, that's yet to be seen.
A lot of Arab countries are prepared to move in. And in the meantime, there are too many innocent people that are being killed. And Israel has slowed down the attacks in Rafah. They have to, and they've made a commitment to me. They're going to see to it that there's ability to evacuate significant portions of Rafah before they go and take out the remainder of Hamas. But
So he's basically saying that Israel is calming itself down. How true that is, like I said, is yet to be seen. But I want us all to remember this. So this is etched in your brain so that you don't ever forget that when I started covering these stories, when I started this channel, the one thing that I knew and I said then is that America's stance, as disrespectful and disheartening, dishonorable to you and I that it is, ultimately, what I knew was America would walk itself back. It would walk itself back from its support for Ukraine. It would walk itself back for its support for Israel. It would walk itself back. And how did I know this? Well, because the whole world is calling for a ceasefire, and you're the only one that's vetoing such calls for a ceasefire. But yet, you're faced with a problematic situation. It's an election year inside the United States of America. And your greatest opponent is standing on the other side. And it's almost a guaranteed victory. It's almost guaranteed because the last 4 years have been nothing short of pure disgracefulness. Nothing short of it. It's an absolute disgrace for any politician or any member of Congress to act like they're proud of being part of in this time that we're in. In other geopolitical news, Al Jazeera reports, why is Israel's prime minister determined to attack Rafah? Benjamin Netanyahu says a ground offensive on Rafah is vital to eliminating Hamas. Now, think about the previous story that I just gave you guys and think about this and how it's almost like a contradiction to the previous story that I just gave you guys. On one hand, they're talking about a ceasefire for the month of Ramadan, and on this, they're talking about an attack on Rafah and how it is vital to eliminating Hamas.
Hello there and welcome to the programme. I'm Laura Kyle. Palestinians displaced by Israel's war on Gaza have crowded into Rafah in the south of the Strip. The Israeli military had previously described the city as a safe zone, but daily airstrikes are intensifying and a ground offensive is planned, putting 1.5 million people squarely in the line of fire. There are also reports of a possible ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. However, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel's assault on Rafah will go ahead no matter what. Is there any hope?
So now, as I've just said to you guys, make it make sense. If the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is saying that it will go on, the military campaign will go on no matter what, then explain a possible ceasefire. Explain Joe Biden saying that Israel has agreed to a ceasefire for the month of Ramadan. Explain that. Is that a lie? that we're being fed, and yet a military campaign will still ensue in the month of Ramadan? Because that's what it seems like. It seems like the information we're being fed is that, oh, it's going to be a ceasefire for the month of Ramadan. But Benjamin Netanyahu, and this is uh, Al Jazeera's news report as of today, as of Tuesday, February the 27th. So this is not something that was days ago or reported, last week or anything of the sort. This is new information right after the previous information was also uploaded today. So now which one can it be? Are you actually going to honor an agreement for a ceasefire during the month of Ramadan? Or are you actually going to continue on with your military campaign regardless of any agreement or anything that is said or comes forth that you pretend to agree to and then do something else?
For Palestinians trapped in the city with nowhere to go? And will anything stop Israel's ground operation? We'll go to our panel in just a moment. First, Fintan Monaghan has this report.
Israel's bombing of Gaza has forced more than 1.5 million Palestinians to take refuge in Rafah. Their living conditions are dire. There's no water or sanitation. Food and basic necessities are in short supply, and diseases are spreading through the makeshift camps.
My son has contracted hepatitis virus because of the unhealthy and unclean conditions we are living in. We are living in a tent that cannot protect us from cold or rain.
I can't imagine that with no running water and no active sanitation. I can't imagine what circumstances they are actually living in. As an American citizen, there's many things that I have a disdain for as it relates to this country. But one thing I can say is that, and there was a time where, especially in the United States, a place like New York City was very, very dirty, very, very filthy. And so diseases and a lot of children playing outside in the streets and things of that nature contracted, different types of diseases and all types of stuff. And that's the history. And so moving forward, what I can say is that things have gotten a lot better, although things are still not where they should be or still in a disheartening place. When you think about it, the scope of things, it is still better than it was. And so these are the things that kind of bother me. These are the things that kind of plague my mind when I think about the circumstances that one's living in. So you have the bombardment, you have the killing of innocent civilians, men, women, children, elderly. You have the infrastructure falling, crumbling all around you from the bombs going off. And then certain points or places that are said to be of refuge that you and however many of your loved ones are able to make it there, even still, those conditions are almost dire. They're almost dire. The refuge that you're going to, the refuge that you seek, once you get there, only to find that they are severely lacking resources. Severely. And so it almost it almost uh it almost begs a person to question, what's the point? What's the point of it all when you've reached the destination that is supposed to be a place of refuge, and there are not only not enough resources, but this place is also being targeted. And so this is what the Palestinians have been faced with. This is what they're dealing with on the ground as they deal with this assault by the Israelis.
In addition, the entire surroundings are dirty. The whole area is dirty and polluted. Hunger, cold, and disease are devouring our children.
But soon, things may get even worse. Israel is determined to launch a ground assault on the city. While there's been talk of a potential ceasefire, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says it would only delay the military offensive, which he says is essential to defeating Hamas and ensuring Israeli security.
We cannot leave a quarter of Hamas's terrorist battalions intact. No one would do that in the case of fighting ISIS. You wouldn't leave a quarter of ISIS intact in a defined territory. You wouldn't even think about that, and you didn't. America finished the job with its allies. We will finish the job.
It's almost as if he's saying America did it, so they should be able to do it. And so it seems that seems a very odd statement to make, that America finished off ISIS. Well, from my understanding, and I'm not exactly privy to that situation, so I won't speak too much about that. But from my understanding, it wasn't an enormous amount of people that were killed, displaced, and their infrastructure destroyed in doing such. Now, I might be wrong because, as I said, the United States of America is diabolical. So I wouldn't be surprised to hear they've done God knows what, God knows where. So it absolutely wouldn't surprise me to find out, oh, you're wrong about that. The United States of America have killed so many, and I'm very well privy to that as well. But he's referencing a certain situation as to make an example of and give proof that this is what needs to be done. But as I said, I don't think that in that situation, when dealing with ISIS, and as I said before, I'm not privy to all of that information, but I don't think that it was a humanitarian crisis as what's being done in the city of Gaza.
Here with our brave soldiers.
The United Nations and aid agencies have warned a ground incursion into Rafah would lead to civilian deaths. Even Israel's biggest ally, the United States, has said now is not the time for an assault.
I wanted to pause it right there for a second because it's important that I speak about this woman. Now, I'm not privy to this lady's name, and I absolutely don't care at this point. But what I do care about is the fact that, someone that looks like me as it relates to her nationality, I find it very disheartening that this individual and individuals alike are being used, in my judgment, in my opinion, are being used to travel the world and say what it is that the American people feel, say what it is that the American people want. And it's emphatically not only inappropriate, but it's emphatically not true. And sadly, those that are in positions of power, that sit in Congress, that, you know, govern us, sadly, they are not connected. They are disconnected from the American people. If we was to have a vote today of what the American people want as it relates to what's happening with Israel and Palestine, they very well know that it would be unanimous. And that's not to say that there aren't people who would vote against, but for the majority, so maybe I shouldn't have used the word unanimous, but it would be serious, they would be seriously outnumbered by the majority as it relates to those who want a ceasefire. So they are very much disconnected from the American people. And sadly, they always are. This is a country that, because of their policies and because of this thing that they honor and hold so high called democracy, because of this practice, the American population and the country almost always, year after year, decade after decade, this country has always been divided and it always will be. And you can blame it on the diversity, different people, so many nationalities, people coming from all parts of the world. You can blame it on whatever it is that you want to blame it on. But the fact of the matter is, because of these policies, the country is divided and it will always be. Because these policies changed and the changing of power always leaves a part of the country unsatisfied. So if you vote for someone and they don't get into office well, then I guess your needs are not being met, and vice versa. But how many times do you vote for someone, and even when you get the person that you voted for, how many times do your needs truly get met?
No attacks on Rafah should take place given current circumstances, and we will keep pressing that. We know we've heard what Israel has said. They have not gone in to attack Rafah, and we will keep.
Yeah, but you heard what they have said. They have not done it yet, and you're saying that you're going to keep pressing them not to, but you have heard what they have said, and that a ceasefire at this point, it would harm their offensive. It would harm their attack. This is what they're saying. So I very well don't see how this is going to play out. It seems very contradictory.
Keep engaging and urging and pushing in that direction to ensure that that does not happen.
A ceasefire would give Palestinians some reprieve after months of bombardment and deprivation. But if an Israeli ground offensive does come, there may be no way for them to get out of harm's way. Vincent Monahan, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
So, like I said, man, who knows what will truly happen? As I said in a previous story, Joe Biden has already announced, probably prematurely, that Israel has already agreed to a ceasefire for the month of Ramadan. So, will they enter the city of Rafah during this time? Who knows? Only time will tell. Follow Street Icon on all social media platforms, at Street Icon 8080 on the YouTube platform, at Street Icon 1 on the X platform, and Street Icon on all other social media platforms. Drop a comment in the comment section and let me know how you feel about the stories you heard today. How specifically do they make you feel? Drop a comment in the comment section. And also, always remember, stay vigilant, stay safe. Peace.